Camp Tales. Campfire Tales. That's what this movie's called. Now, I watched this movie today because I was just not feeling it today. What I mean by not feeling it is just you ever have a day where you just feel lazy? I wanted to play a video game real bad, but then I didn't want to play a video game because I knew I had stuff to do. So I was like, I'm not going to play a video game because once I start playing a video game, I'll get so into the video game that I ain't going to want to stop playing. So I was like, I'm not watching video. So I started watching stuff on YouTube. So Campfire Tales, I decided I was midway through it. I was a couple days ago, I decided to watch it. Another movie that is surprisingly good. Put this on your radar. It came out in 1997. Because I was looking at some of these actresses and actors. I was like, man, they're a whole lot older than that by now. Because this one kid was in Malcolm in the Middle as the troubled older brother. I recognize him. But anyway, Campfire Tales is about these teenagers are out driving. And they're out drinking beer. And the guy's driving and weaving all through the town, all through the cut back roads. And they run off into a ditch. And so they entertain one another by telling famous urban legends of stories. So, because they're trying to wait on the state patrolman and them to find them. So they put flares out in the road. So it says, teens entertain one another by telling an anthology of famous urban legends with a modern twist, including Makeout Point, monsters, psychopaths, and ghosts. But so while they're sitting there, I'm all into it, right? I'm thinking something's going to attack these people, right? So they come out of the thing and they're like, I told you to stop doing that. He goes, what? He said, I just bought that car, man. I love that car. And so they got James Marsden in here, Amy Smart, and they were all super young in this movie because they're a lot older now because came out in 1990. I said, man, that's Amy Smart. I used to think she was fine, boy. I used to think she was hot. Not that she looks bad now, but man, back in the day, man, that girl was just... Anyway, back to this. So they come out and they're arguing and stuff. They're setting out flares. He goes, man, I can't get my car out. Now I got to get, they sent out flares so they could get state highway patrolmen and all the sheriff to come out to get them out. So they decided to go off to this place where it looked like a building had burnt down. And it was an old church. I said, I wonder what this was. They said, it looks like it was an old church. So they sit around, start a campfire, waiting on somebody to find them so they can get the car out of the ditch and get going. So it's two guys, two girls. So they decided to sit around and tell all these campfire tales. And they were some good campfire tales. Because, I was in the Halloween spirit, right? So I think there was a total of 1, 2, what was the other one? 1, 2, 3, 4. Might have been 5 little stories they told in this campfire. I think. It might have been 4. But all 5 stories were different and unique. And you got to understand, this came out in 1997, right? I was like, I'm liking this, right? So I'm watching it and stuff and everything. So, they weren't like one of those blow you out of the water type of, but they just sitting around trying to buy time so they could be found so they can get that car out of the ditch and move on with their lives because they was drinking and he just speeding and weaving all on the back roads because he didn't think nobody was out there. So he weaved out of the way of the car, and that's how they ended up getting stuck in that ditch, and they had to crawl out of that ditch, and they found this place, and they was sitting around the campfire waiting on to have somebody come and get that car out. I'm watching this thing, right? Now, this is Halloween. Think about this. So at the end, after they told all these stories, I'm watching each one of these little campfire stories. That's not bad. I said, wow, man, that's not a bad story either. So I got on the very last story. And I said, wow. I'm saying this to myself, what an interesting story. So after this, the guy's like, what's that noise? And they look and they couldn't find it. And they was trying to figure out what that noise was. And then the guy that was driving the car, he goes, oh man, he goes, the police and everybody's here. And there was a bunch of cop cars and an ambulance. So he walks up and he looks. And he's like, he was looking at his expression. Because when I was watching TV last night, I was sitting there going like this morning, I was sitting there going, well, if there are cars in a ditch, why is there so many cop cars and all those lights going and ambulance sitting there? He's looking, he was like, what the heck? He turns around and all of his friends are gone, right? So then it goes down to them and it's like showing them working on him and trying to bring him back to life. You know, they use that thing to pump to get your heart started. He's staring and it's him. And they're trying to save his life, and he's sitting there, and it goes back to where he's standing there where he was telling all those stories with his friends. And then he looks, and his friends reappear, and they're all just staring at him, like in shock and awe. And he realized that he killed his friends in that car, and they were sitting there, and his girlfriend walks up to him while they were trying to use that thing that pumps you to get your heart pumped. It was like 1, 2, and then boom. And then they turn it up and like, boom. And then she walks up and she puts both her hands on his chest. And then a tear comes out of his eye and then he dies. And then it showed the people that was in one of the stories said, man, he came out of nowhere. I just didn't know what to do. And we were all asleep. So they were all dead telling these campfire tales. I was impressed. And this movie came out in 1997. That's all I got. I'm all into my Halloween thing, even though this is November 1st, but I had to throw a video up about this, and it was very, very entertaining. If you can watch this, don't look for anything like what you see today. This was made back in 1997, so you have to take that in consideration. But anyway, be blessed. God bless, and have a nice evening, whatever it is you're doing.